Welcome to the Occult Rejects. We are two former secret society members who were determined to show the public the truth that occultism has been purposely integrated into every aspect of society, from politics to music, Hollywood, and science. This is used to manipulate the public as a whole and to protect the fake elite. The symbols are used all around us to affect world events and public perception, our behavior, and even our future. We will translate the occult so that you have eyes to see. We reject their agenda to give you the tools to save yourself. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Occult Rejects with your hosts, me, Lux.
And the NY Patriot.
And today we are going to go over some different material for talismans and sigils. Mm-hmm. It's a really big subject in the magical community, I guess. And we really, we're influenced by a lot of these sigils and talismans sort of all the time. They're integrated into a lot of different parts of society, and we're going to go over some of that today.
Yeah, I think, the main reason why we're even, like he said, they're everywhere. And that's why we wanted to do this episode. It's not really a big, exciting one, but it is very informative, and I think you will realize exactly how much of this stuff probably is in our faces on a daily basis, and we have no idea,
Yeah.
So I would suggest to listen to the whole thing, because at the end, I'm even going to do a little exercise that might make all of us think a little bit too. So you have to at least stay for that.
Yeah. And it's like one of the most common forms of magic too. And it's huge. A form of magic, that's shared among, pretty much any occultist, magician, etc. Everyone uses talismans and sigils.
If you were to ask any ceremonial magician, have you used talismans? They'll probably say that's used a lot.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah, and it's definitely put in pop culture. Music labels, movie studios, government. They're everywhere, and they have so much influence. I mean, talismans and sigils, they do have a lot of power behind them when properly done.
For sure.
And, we, as a majority, are pretty unaware as to just how much we're bombarded by all of these different sigils and talismans all the time.
Yes. I can even say, and I bet you could probably agree with me, once I started getting into using sigils and talismans a lot, I started thinking like, oh, is that one? Is that one? Like,
right.
You start even seeing resemblances in certain colors being used together a lot that you would see used in ceremonial magic for a specific reason. So, they're definitely everywhere.
And I mean, everything from like McDonald's, for example, I'm not saying that their logo is a sigil, but like, all of these different places that use these sigils and talismans, they do them for a very specific reason, to accomplish a goal, or to influence just generally the public.
Exactly. Yes. So I guess now we'll kind of go into like what exactly is a sigil. I guess we're going to start with sigils first. You want to explain that, Lux? Or give a brief breakdown of like how you would normally make one, I guess.
Yeah, I would just say that it's a process of, and there's a bunch of different methods for it too.
Yeah.
But I would say symbolic representation, creating something with a symbol with intent, right? So you're creating like an abstract symbol, and you're trying to charge it with like either a spirit or a magical force.
Yes.
And you're trying to have some type of desired outcome by creating the sigil. So, you can, and there's a bunch of different methods, but you would, essentially write out what it is that you're desiring to accomplish, or you could use sort of names of spirits so that you were trying to sort of invoke or to.
Yeah, that's a very good point right there. Very good point. Yeah.
So, but just mostly it's supposed to accomplish a goal.
Yes.
or to, like I said, invoke something.
Yeah, and we're
And
going
there
to
are,
have pictures up. Sorry to interrupt you. We're having pictures up too. So if you're listening to this and you are able to look at it, I would suggest it's something worth looking at. You know.
yeah, and you're going to use tons of different like symbols or letters converted into numbers that are that you're trying to use to accomplish your desired goal. And I even know in some like chaos magic, they will use, and not to get weird with it, but they'll use orgasms and things like
Yes,
that.
yeah. I was gonna bring that up actually if you didn't. Yeah. They
Right.
do that, and I've even heard of it was in one of the book that I had. I think it was just something that you would do, either hold your breath or like slightly kind of choke yourself. You're almost bringing yourself to about to pass out, to charge the sigil and then stop.
Really?
Yes, yeah. You're supposed to bring yourself to the brink of passing out, and you're supposed to focus on whatever you've created to charge it.
Wow.
So there is also definitely weird practices that are even can be done with sigil work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can even use shapes.
Yes, you elemental shapes. You could use other sigils really too.
Yeah. Yeah. And so a lot of times when people, I think, are out and about and they're doing their things, they don't really, something that wouldn't even look like it has any actual meaning or power behind it can legit be a symbol, and in reality it's a sigil.
Yes,
So,
exactly. Which is another reason why we wanted to do this show.
right.
Yes. So this right now, I have a picture up showing you how a sigil could be made. Now this person is doing "I am confident," and you see that you cross out the letters, and then you make a design. That's basically how easy it could also be. It can be that easy where you just want something, you write it down, and you take out the doubles. Some people will take out the vowels, right? Some people do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've left them in, but some people take them out, and then you just make a design out of it.
Right.
And then here's one. I'm going to show you how I made one, just to show you how easy it is again. Mm-hmm. I will not be a baby leftist. That is my intent. I want to get out of the house and go get a job and be self-sufficient. I will not be a baby leftist. So now, there you see, I left the vowels, but I took out the double letters.
Right.
Left me with what you see here. And then I'm the worst artist, so this is what I got out of it. So now I'm sure nobody would assume that means I will not be a baby leftist.
Right.
But to me, it does.
And especially with sort of how hard you're consecrating or charging that sigil too.
Yes.
You can even trace them in the air.
Yep.
I mean, some guys you just trace sigils into the air, and so it doesn't even necessarily have to be something on paper. So
that's a perfect example. Now in the greater hexagram rituals,
right?
When you are tracing your hexagrams, now when you do the hexagram ritual, you're basically invoking planetary energies. Now with the greater one, now when you're invoking whatever planetary energy you want to invoke, or whatever there's maybe other things that you could associate with that. You're going to draw that planetary sigil in the middle of the hexagram as you charge it.
Right.
So there you go again. Yes, yeah, and honestly, magicians, I think you'll say the same thing too. You kind of basically start to train yourself to see it in your vision with your eyes closed at first, and then if you're real gangster, you can do it with your eyes open.
Right.
But that is drawing these symbols and visualizing them is something that you're supposed to do to get better results.
And with a lot of practice, I mean, there were points where I could be doing a ritual and I more or less got used to seeing the actual symbol that I was drawing in the air.
If you didn't see it that well, you were like, fuck, did I screw that up?
Right.
I know exactly what you're saying, yeah.
Yeah, you'd have days and you'd be like, I can't see it today or something,
Yeah, I must be off.
Right.
Yeah, that's so true, and that's a really good point I think to bring up for these to show a point of like how important these things are in magic.
Yeah, and they can even be worn. I mean, you can
Yeah,
tattoo them. I mean, you can. It's such a sort of
carry them
open.
on you. Some people will
Right.
then burn them with a candle and think, it just put out your intent out into the universe.
Right. There's such a variety of way that they can be done, and I
Hmm.
think it's the most common form of magic. I would say, sigils and
Yes,
talismans.
yes, by far. Now, we're going to step it up a little bit. This would be more for, I guess, the average magician. I wouldn't say advanced, but now there is also things called the magic squares.
Right.
That would be associated with planetary magic or the spheres off of the Tree of Life. Is there anything you could add to that? Because I know this is probably your wheelhouse too, really.
Would you say that again?
Basically, the magic squares that are
Right.
used to draw sigils. That would be basically just for neither planetary magic or maybe angels and the things associated with the Tree of Life, the spheres off of the
Right.
Kabbalah. I think that pretty much covers it, right?
Yeah, and you can sort of use, these to do like a connect the dots too, or sort of
Yes.
draw from one letter, one number to another, and create a sigil that way. And something interesting about this, the Hebrew stuff, and using those letters is that Hebrew is also has numerical value for each one of their letters in the Book of Formation. So, I mean, the Hebrews were really,
Hmm.
I would say, some of the first to start making sigils.
Yeah, yeah, and to add, like he was even saying, these things have numerical value to them, and then they even have like other associations to them also. So like this starts to get very deep to where like you would have no idea. Like some of the things we'll show you, you wouldn't have no idea that probably actually means something.
Right. Hmm.
So yeah, so like you could be writing down neither a certain type of energy that you want this to have from like something from the Tree of Life. Then you could start using Hebrew
Right.
for the gematria.
Yep.
Uh, like I said, Aleph would.
Especially in Enochian magic.
Yes, yes, yes.
Big in Enochian magic.
And I would like to add also that in most orders or anything that's into ceremonial magic, I would say probably about 90% of them are based off of the Kabbalah. Would you probably agree with that?
Definitely. Yeah.
So these that we're showing you will definitely magicians would be using them who are into this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to add, like I said before, like these letters could represent something. Like the letter Aleph could be an ox,
Yeah.
Gamel could be a camel,
Right.
Daleth the door, Hey window. So
Hmm.
you could have an ox in the picture instead of that letter, just to represent that letter or something else. Like it's just or the numerical value of that.
Exactly.
So you really have no idea what
Yeah.
it's really saying. And then I put up the Pythagor. I forgot how do you say it. Pythagor.
Pythagoras.
Yeah,
Theorem.
whatever. I always screw it up. Then there's this. They do say that they suggest that there's a way that if you wanted to still use those planetary squares or those magic squares, if you wanted to use English, you can. And this is what I'm showing you. That's just another way if you want to use the magical squares, not using Hebrew.
Right.
No, this right here. Can you see it? You can see it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's sort
That's
of like
just
what we were talking about, connecting the dots.
yes. Yep. Yep. So, and then the thing is, too, is that you could be using different squares, the same name, which would, be a little weird. I guess maybe it would work. And then the sigil would look completely different because the square is going to be completely different for each sphere. There's going to be a different
Right.
size, different amount of numbers. So that could even make things look, something could be saying the same thing as the next thing, but it's a totally different symbol.
Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Tablet of Union?
No, I have not.
Tablet of Union. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
why don't
used
you
in
enlighten
Enoch.
us a little bit?
It's used in Enochian magic.
Oh yeah, see, I never got into that. There was no way I'd have to devote my life to understand that shit.
Yeah, it's just essentially a box similar to what we have on the screen now, but a pattern, and it's like 20 letters, and each one of the letters represents a spirit.
Oh, I think I came across that recently when I was actually looking up for things to do for sigils. It was it was the Enochian alphabet, right? Kind of.
Yeah, I'm not sure if it's the alphabet, but I guess it's. Again, I've never really studied too much into Enochian magic.
I put you on the spot now. Sorry.
But that's.
He's like, next.
But Enochian magic is an extremely powerful form of magic.
Yeah, and it's so insanely detailed. It's just ridiculous. Right. The fire of water, the fire of earth, the earth of fire. Oh my God.
Right. I know that they really. They really use that tablet of union for sigil making and stuff, so that's why I mentioned it.
Then here we go. Like, see, this is, would be the square for the moon that I have up now, and this is all the different types of sigils that you could be drawn for things associated with the moon. They all look different. They could, some of them may mix to where some of them might almost mean the same thing. I'm sure they all have their different purposes, but they are all things that are associated with the moon, and they all look different.
Yeah.
We have some more. I picked this one because the sigil of Saturn, I think that is around a lot, and people don't even notice it. I would even say this one of Jupiter, kind of. I've seen that a lot.
Yeah.
Next. Now this is kind of like planetary sigils now being used on talismans, which is what we're going to get to next. Right. But now this would be, I'm sure this looks very familiar to you, Lux. This would be, I think this is straight out of a Golden Dawn book.
Yep.
So this is exactly types of things some people would use for themselves. Maybe if they were going to put something out in public, maybe it would look a little different. But this is something they would possibly carry on themselves. Would you say that too?
Yeah, definitely. And, a lot of times they're going to be worn by certain members of secret societies, especially in rituals, at least for me in the Golden Dawn. So
and one thing that we left out, these things, or maybe I did mention it, but like they're typically, did I mention that they're typically done on like stones or rings, and then really actually like wood and paper and metal? I wasn't sure if I mentioned that or not, but like these things can be on anything. I used to sometimes get little pieces of fucking circles of wood from like Hobby Lobby or fucking Michael's, and like if there was a specific angel that I was going to work with all the time, I would actually draw out the sigil and then I would burn it in there with the intent, and then I would use that every time I would put it on my altar. So, it could be burnt on wood. Some people, like you said, I had a friend that used to be really good at it on metal. He would use whatever metal was associated, like with Venus. He would drew something on copper. He uses like one of those things. So, these things can be anywhere and on anything.
Yeah, really versatile. Most of the time, we worked a lot with metals. So that was really common for us. And even just for Adeptus Minor, you're going to create one. And
isn't that, I think for the Golden Dawn, like you're saying, I think you actually have to create one at certain points, right? They're expected you to?
Yes, for Adeptus Minor, and then, you're going to have sort of like a rose, and then it, contains the 22 Hebrew letters of the alphabet.
To bring that up in the AA, when you get a certain degree high enough, you actually have to have your own, what are those things called? Mandalas? Looks like that spiraling, those things that basically, you have to create your own and explain it.
Yeah.
So these things, they mean something. Mm-hmm. Here we have, this is, I think, the Rosicrucian. That's the Rosicrucian, I think, like sigil. I forgot exactly how it is, but it's more of like it's a different way of putting the letters in there. So then again, you'll end up with a different shape than you had for something else.
Right. It's just spherical. So.
All right. Now here are some things that, decided to add that maybe these are sigils. Prince. I mean, he
This
changed his
see
name to
everywhere.
a shape.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, what didn't he have some music too that was pretty occulted? I never really listened to Prince too much, but I thought he had some interesting music that really pointed to occultism.
You know, he did, and you know what's crazy, because on my own show I always put like well, I haven't for the last few, but I was like putting like, you know, stuff out of music videos. And there was stuff I came across from him, and I meant to rip the video and totally forgot, and I can't remember it. But there was like two of them that I was going to use at the beginning and the end that I was like, damn, Prince was like that. I never realized, you know, because it's been so long since I listened to him.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, well, it makes sense, isn't everybody?
You don't listen to Purple Rain every morning?
When I get in the shower.
Yeah.
This shit, as soon as I hit the fucking faucet, it plays.
On repeat.
Yeah. Until I'm done, yeah.
Yeah.
And then here we go. I mean, I'm a fan of the band, so I'm not trying to shit on them. Dream Theater. I mean, looks like a fucking sigil to me. It could be. Maybe not.
Yeah.
9 Inch Nails.
And what's interesting about sigils and talismans too is that you can more or less make one, and let's say maybe you're just starting out in magic or something. If you don't do like a consecration, you know, for a long period of time, or your intent or your like the will that you're putting into your sigil or your talisman, they can be relatively weak. But you know, the more advanced a magician is, the longer that process is going to be, and the stronger that symbol or talisman or sigil is going to be.
Yeah, like, not going to explain so people have an idea of how it's done, but I would say the more throughout your magical career, the better you are able to concentrate on something, which should strengthen if you're doing the practices, then it should come out better. So,
yeah.
You know, they should only, if you're doing the right thing, or, well, if you're doing the right practices to advance, it's going to get better and better and better down the road. So they only get stronger throughout your magical career, and people who know what they're doing, I'm pretty sure they make some pretty damn good sigils and talismans.
Yeah, and, you know, the reason why we talk about this specifically is so important is because, you know, at high levels, there are very, very, very serious magicians that are, you know, influencing culture and society and using sigils and talismans, you know, towards the public. And I think, you know, just the majority would probably say, what? There's no way that a symbol or a talisman or a sigil could influence me. Oh, absolutely they can, especially if charged and consecrated in the right way. So they can influence behavior of a whole society. I mean, if it's really a powerful enough sigil or talisman.
I believe so. And, you know, I've spoken, I don't think I've brought it up on our show, but that, and I think the idea of egregores is what we're looking at going on a lot right now.
Yeah.
That's going to get off the subject of talismans, but I think like what he's saying, you know, this symbology and mindsets being forced onto people is really causing a lot of issues for humanity.
Oh, dude, and especially when you wear it. You know, like, let's say somebody makes a sigil or a talisman, you're totally unaware. You go out, you buy a shirt from a company or something, right?
Yeah.
And then you put that shirt on you, you're literally giving more power to that sigil or talisman.
Yeah. And as corny as it sounds, like, it's actually really not. You know, like, we're being serious, and it may sound corny to some people, but it's legit.
Yeah.
You know? So then I guess now we can go on to, if you want, we'll actually go into like some talismans. So
just one thing to point out real quick about that Maserati symbol that you had.
Yes.
Did you see the trident?
Trident, yes. Yep. See, now that right there, the whole trident symbol, I mean, I'll give, you know, my little breakdown of what I think it is. I mean, first off, it's got 3 points, so does the top of the tree. It's associated with Poseidon, who's this god underneath water, and I think that he uses that to actually pierce the veil to go into the top 3 spheres of the tree.
Yeah, and
if you have anything to add, go for it, but that's basically my take on it.
The trident is really important to Hermetic magic.
Yes. I've often wondered, is that the 3-3 for the 33-degree Masons? Is it just like symbolizing, going back to that, the 3 points, but 2 of them? Who knows?
Yeah, and it's more like, I mean, in Hermetic magic, it's used to, I mean, banish, destroy things.
Yes, exactly. Very right. Yeah.
Hostile enemies and things like that,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not talking about like, you don't stab somebody with a trident.
Well, Crowley did call them magical weapons, right? He called the wand the magical weapons.
Yeah, I mean, so you could, use that trident in a ritual for, good or bad. But it's definitely important.
Yep. Very good. All right, so these are some, again, like these probably look familiar. Like these basically, a talisman just could be something with a bunch of sigils on it and some writing. Some of them don't have to be all that pretty or all that artistic. Or they could, start.
Or complex either.
Yeah, or start to look like this, which is like, this is basically a drawing or a painting or a piece of art, whatever you want to call it, that's telling you an occulted story like all over the place.
Right.
And people probably just look at it and be like, it's some fucking weird shit, But it's loaded with stuff in there, I'm not going to sit here and try to break it down, but I'm telling you, that means something there.
Yeah, and I mean, the practice of making sigils and talismans is really old. I mean, it goes back to Egypt. I mean, they used to, in Egypt, they would put sigils and talismans on huge slabs of rock or, metal,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would actually put them into the water supply for the Egyptian people. And the reason why they did that is because they believed that, you drinking the water that was exposed to the talisman or sigil had an effect on you. So that's how serious that they took it. So
yeah, that's wow. I never knew that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, have you ever heard of the Picatrix?
Yeah.
Yeah, did you ever see some of the stuff in there? Now that I think is that's more of kind of like Muslim magic, right? Isn't that from like the Middle East or something like that?
Yeah,
that stuff is like almost like this, what was up on the screen, but I think even better. It's like, I could never draw those things, and it's like telling you a ridiculous story.
Yeah, and I mean, in Arabic, they I think they call them tilsums or something. It's not. They call them something slightly different, but it's was used in Islam too. Make sigils and talismans.
Yep. So now here is this would be a Freemason. I forgot exactly which lodge I pulled it off of. This might be, it looks like maybe Texas, right? Maybe, I don't know. This, to me, this is a talisman. This is exactly how somebody would create a talisman. It could look definitely like this. So that's the Freemasons. Now, this is something associated with the Golden Dawn. So
yeah, we used to get pretty serious with the sigil talisman thing, as you can see.
Yeah, I will definitely say when it comes to that stuff, the Golden Dawn was very extra.
Very much so. Very much so. It's the process was long and extensive, and it is a really big part of Hermetic magic. And consecration processes would take forever.
And then even charging them, it's like just basically a whole other ritual in itself.
Yeah, and that's more or less how I was taught that talismans. When you're creating a talisman, you're initiating the talisman.
Yeah.
So you're putting it through initiation.
I will even put it to you this way for the listeners, because I forgot that I even used to do this too. This is how serious you could actually get with these things to possibly make them even stronger. Let's say I wanted to use Mercury. I wanted to invoke Thoth or some kind of mercurial energy. Let's say I wanted to make the sigil. I would make it on a Wednesday on the hour of Mercury. Right. And then when I wanted to charge it, I would charge it on the day of Mercury on the hour of Mercury.
Yeah.
Like that's, and you can even get more precise with that. You can start then looking into where Mercury is in the sky, and in your ritual actually draw that sigil in that direction, thinking you're contacting it. That's, to the extreme of how, detailed this stuff can get. And that's nothing, like Lux was saying. he would spend almost 2 hours sometimes with that stuff. Me, I wasn't as detailed as him, but for me to do an initiation, I mean, not initiation, a ritual, and then charge my talisman, I'm taking an hour out of my day. I know for a fact for that. You know?
Right.
So, you know, these things aren't as, you know, they might be a little bit more important than most people think they are.
Yeah, and you always hear that corny thing that people say where they're like, what you think you create. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, you hear people say that, but really that is one of the natural laws that is being obeyed here when you're creating sigils and talismans, is that your intent and your will.
You're focusing on that idea for a long time, actually.
Yeah, you're manifesting it into the real world or asking for the assistance of an entity.
Exactly. Yep. That's another way too. Very, very good. Very good. Yeah. So then how do you know some of that didn't get somewhere else too? I mean, that's a whole other issue, you know, if you don't know what you're doing.
Yep.
And then here I have the OTO Laman. In my opinion, that's another fucking sigil. I mean, that's a talisman. That's another one. We got Tag Cure. I mean, I'm sure if you guys have listened to me, I obviously have a thing for this green and red idea. It symbolizes something. If you haven't picked it up by now, I'm telling you now. There's this thing, I keep on seeing green and red in places, and I just have this idea that it has to do with the chaos to cross into the abyss. Mm-hmm. So that's my take on Tag Cure, and that would also be my take on chilies that I have up for you guys also. Mm-hmm. Then this is another one. Now this is associated with the moon. Like this is another. No, my bad. Not the moon. This is associated with Malkuth, actually. A sigil for Malkuth, which is the X can be huge for that. It could also be used in Mercury and Jupiter, possibly. It's a big symbol in occultism. But like this is just showing you how basic, a talisman could also be. So it doesn't have to be a huge piece of work of art, but it could still have the same amount of time and an intent put into it.
Right.
So it doesn't have to be, some painting,
Yep.
Now we're going to get on to these things. I think if I remember correctly, who was I saying this was? Markle again?
Yeah, I think of Merkel.
Yes. This is family crests. I mean, now if we start explaining to you before about like how you could start like drawing these things with like anything, shapes, animals, letters can mean other things. Mm-hmm. Other symbols can mean other stuff. Is it too hard to think that, these family crests are actually talismans? They're stating, neither an attainment or who they think they are, in my opinion.
Yeah, and talismans will, it's not something you even necessarily have to actively work on. I mean, you could just leave a talisman to do its work, and over time, especially... you can charge that even more, but it's essentially working on its own. You don't once you're finished with it, it's doing its work.
Yes, it becomes its own almost entity in its own.
Yeah, until it's. I mean, for us, if we wanted to destroy a talisman, we would have to do a whole ceremonial thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. If you wanted to do it right, it would be almost like you have to undo the whole thing all over again.
Right.
Yeah, and even just to be real quick with this, crest. I mean, look at it. I see the dove, which kind of can be for love, and then the lion's for the beast. So, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. Yep.
Here's another one, like we said before. This one is specifically for Mercury. Things with Mercury, if you were to make a talisman, that would be for like knowledge, speech, communication. I think transportation and flight too, right?
Think so.
Yeah, I know somebody that had made a talisman like this, or a Mercury, talisman, because they were going on a flight, so they took it with them. If you like, I know, for example, like if you needed to, let's say if you were a salesman, you got to have the gift of gab. You got to be able to sell motherfuckers. You got to be able to, get people captive. You got to get them to, buy your shit, basically. This would be perfect for that because it would be, speech, communication. I'm going to be able to get these people to buy what I want them to buy, Simple like that. Simple like this could be in someone's pocket, So,
absolutely.
Yep. CERN.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and these are the guys that are
666.
that are literally colliding particles, in what is it, Switzerland, and I don't even get me started on CERN, but they're up to some really crazy stuff. And to me, obviously, right here, just a quick analysis of this, I immediately see 666. So they've integrated the number of the beast into their logo. So this is obviously a talisman to me because you can see the 3 6s right there. I mean, it's
Totally believe it.
And I also think that this could symbolize an eclipse. So the moon.
Oh, that's good. That's good, dude.
Moon, covering the sun, because you see the rays that are coming off of one of them. So it looks like
could be, yeah. That's an impressive. We'll go to the next one.
Crazy,
and now look, you almost see the same type of thing going on here, though. Now,
exactly
with Google.
Yep. So I also see an eye there potentially. 666.
I mean, I see the red and the green too. I had to say it. If it was by itself, but there's too much other stuff going on in there.
Oh man, I'd love to see you around at Christmas.
Oh man, that's funny. So now here we go with the Rothschilds coat of arms.
Yep.
I would assume this is what we were just showing you, all talisman.
And this thing's loaded.
They're stating their purpose. They're stating their claim upon whatever fucking, chair that's, whatever. Whatever throne they think they're sitting on.
Right.
This is what they're saying.
And, family crests, especially, they're carrying a lot of power because they're passed down generationally. So, they've had the same crest for hundreds of years. That gets continuously more charged. And
very good point. I mean, I would even say, like right here, the United States Department, the seal itself. I mean, I hate to say it, looks like a talisman to me too. I mean, that would explain why there's just to most people, random stuff in here, but it's not so random. All that stuff means something, Yeah,
I mean, you got the obvious hexagram at the top.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. See, like I would even here, I'm going to go with the green again. Now the arrows to pierce the veil, and the other side is the green for the abyss.
Yeah, and I think there's even 13 arrows, which, again, so see how when we're talking about this, it's, going back to what we initially said, because, the number, it's not random that it's 13 arrows or, 33 stars. Again, they're representing
it's for
a letter
reason.
or others, other things.
It's there for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now this is just the seal of New Jersey, Still, I mean, fucking, it's like with the horse, weird, what is that? A weird hat? I mean, the fuck is all this? What the hell is all this stuff? It's just some weird drawing.
And it's a red hat too, so it's got see cult symbolism behind that too.
Well, see now on that one pillar, the orange and the red would go together because that would be Hod and Gabor, or Mars and Mercury.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one, I mean, by far, and Alpha Romeo. I mean, come on.
You see, the snake has a crown on it too.
Yeah, and then come on. Then the Red Cross. I mean, come on.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I mean, that's a talisman. Even Toyota sigil talisman could be.
I mean,
it also looks like Taurus. Oh no!
Yeah, Toyota. Yeah. Toyota. If this is really crazy, did you know that in the symbol of Toyota, there is every letter in the word Toyota in the symbol, so you can see it.
Oh wow!
So there's a T at the top, and then an O. There's a Y. I mean, the whole name is spelled out in the symbol. Actually, I didn't know that.
That's even more. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I don't know how I didn't forget about how I forgot about this, but Lux, sent me this fucking symbol on the dollar. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and this is what's interesting about this one is that it literally says, the New World Order. Essentially, it says the Great Seal of the new era, I guess, is another way you could interpret it.
A new aeon, new age.
Yep, exactly.
LG. I mean, that could be one.
You got one eye symbolism.
Oh,
there.
yeah, I didn't even catch that. Yeah, wow. That's a one eye in the nose. One eye.
Yep.
Wow, you're good, dude.
So you got that, one eye closed, like we see all the time in,
Wow.
pop culture.
And then Bank of America.
Yeah, and to me, I mean, this one, I don't know how accurate I am on this one, but when I see this, I see two blue lines, two red lines above it, and then I see two more red lines, right?
Yeah.
To me, when I break this down as a magician, if I'm looking at this, I see 11, 11, 11.
Oh, okay.
Right? So they're using the numbers again, but what is 11 plus 11 plus 11?
33.
Yeah.
Holy shit. Mind blown. Yeah. Yo, if anybody was stoned right now and heard that shit, it was like, they just dropped their joint. Like fucking burning the carpet. So, yeah. All right. Well, it was a good laugh because now we're actually going to get into the little thing that I wanted to do because that was the end of the pictures that we had. So basically, yes, we're trying to show everybody that these things could very much be in your house, be on your clothes, be in your car, everywhere. You have no idea, and it's in my opinion, which I'm going to try to show. This is going to be very basic, just to show you how easy it is for these things to maybe influence you. Now, I would assume everybody who's listening to us, you have probably at least, if you don't, I'm sure we have plenty of different religions, different beliefs, different spiritual paths that might be listening to us. But I'm sure everybody has still heard of Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. I mean, I would assume. Now, maybe you won't believe it, so maybe this won't apply to you so much, but maybe some people do believe in it or believe that it's still true, but in an occulted message itself. Some people might believe that. So if they, believe it or not, people who believe that, this is important. This is for you to really pay attention to then. For people who think that might be an occulted story. And I'm putting myself into this exercise also. I'm including myself. Now, in case nobody happens to know or remember the story of Adam and Eve and the Garden of Eden, Lux, do you want to maybe give like a very brief, quick rundown?
Yeah, I mean, one of the very first stories in the Bible. It's like right after the creation of everything. God puts the Adam and Eve, male and female, into the garden, and again, like you said, there's a ton of occulted, hidden meaning in the story, but they're in the garden, and there is one tree that they are not supposed to eat of. One tree, and that is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And then essentially, Satan, Lucifer, whatever. I'm using these. Yeah, I know. Very loosely because I know that we're going to have some people who are, really smart in comments, and they're going to be like, "Well, Lucifer and Satan isn't the."
We're just saying it for how people know the mass population look at it.
Right. Yeah. So this serpent, right, that is represented by the devil, starts to get into Eve's ear and tell her, "Oh, well, you should eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, even though God said not to, because if you do eat of this fruit, you will become like the gods." So Eve essentially gives in and takes a bite of what is in the Bible represented as an apple.
Yes. And then from there, they get kicked out of the Garden of Eden.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm going to ask everybody to please, kick your ego to the curb. And I know I joke a lot, but I'm actually kind of like a little serious with this. Take whatever preconceived notions maybe you have. Take your pride and shove it in your back pocket and just think open-mindedly. Please think open-minded. Now, us knowing that story and knowing about the apple and Adam and Eve biting it, then why is it okay for all of us to walk around with these fucking iPhones and that symbol on it? Because we all know what that means. We all know what that bite of that apple means. But yet, we have to buy that phone. It's got us so good that we have to buy one every 2 years because, it's got a new camera. Well, let me explain something. Unless you're filming porn at 3 a.m. in the morning behind a fucking dumpster, you don't need that camera. I'm telling you right now. It was just as good 4 years ago. But yet, including myself, I'm no better than anybody else. I have that phone knowing what that symbol represents. And at some point in my life, I didn't give two shits. That's serious. At some point in my life, something that I looked at that meant something to me, or that meant something I don't care about anymore because I have to have the phone. You know, and I'll be honest, after this episode, I'm still going to use it. And I know what? None of you are going to throw yours out. And I understand that because you want that fucking phone. I'll throw it out. I'll go get an Android. I'll get pissed off because I don't know how to use it. I'll return it. I'll throw it out and I'm going to go get another Apple. I know it because it's convenient for me to use and that thing's got a fucking hold on me. I have to have that phone. That's how these things work.
And it does not require your personal belief in whether it's true or false.
That's another thing too.
It does not require your permission to work, right? The symbol, the talisman, the sigil itself, it's already been done. The ritual has already been completed.
It's already been done, and it's it's on and rolling. It's on,
right.
it's on and popping.
Yeah.
And I didn't mean to get like hard and serious, and believe me, I'm not putting anybody down because I'm adding myself into this. I'm not saying I'm any better than anybody else. I'm just saying we need to start looking at stuff like that because when we do, that's removing ourselves a little bit out of this game they're playing with us.
Yep.
And that's why we're doing this show and why we have this podcast is to bring this stuff to light and please people just think for a little bit about that and see where it sits with you and maybe try to make a change for the positive. That's all.
Right.
Yeah. So we got all serious, but I think that was I still think it was a good episode, and I hope the people at the beginning still listened, because I'd say this is actually a little bit more important episode than maybe some of the other things we've done to actually really reach people and make you think. So I really hope you all listen.
And like we had said, these things are influencing us, and they're influencing culture, they're influencing behavior, and ultimately they're influencing the direction that we are going. And I think it's pretty obvious that with the amount of sheer talismans and sigils that you see out there, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that where society is going. Is it in the way that you wanted it to go? I mean, look around us. This is crazy. I mean, the whole world, it seems like it's turned upside down and things are getting really wild and just so many problems. And so ask yourself, based on what you know now, maybe those sigils and those talismans are working because it doesn't seem like we're going the direction that we want to go.
That's a very good point. And, before we end, I would even say, think about other things that you seem, and I'm including myself, that I even think I need to buy when I don't. Think about that for a little bit. That's it. Take a couple of minutes, and maybe there'll be some progress. So, I guess we can just leave it there then.
Yeah.
So I guess, that was the end of another Occult Rejects episode. we really hope you got something out of this. I know I could speak for Lux too. We're putting a little bit of emotions out there for you. The shit's serious, and we want people to see what's going on. Right.
We just really appreciate all the support.
Yes, for sure. Yes. We're getting more subscribers, more followers. People starting to comment. Like, please, we appreciate it. If it wasn't for you people, we wouldn't be doing it. So we thank you for sure.
And just the most important thing you can do is, just share this with the people that you care about.
And be honest. Learn to start being honest with yourself and stop lying. Because I lie to myself all the time. I'm going to lie to myself why I need that iPhone.
Yep.
So I guess that's about it. And until the next one, we hope you all have a great day and be well. Later.